Let me fix that. A big day. This prosecutor's going for the big finish, putting out the evidence that he needs the jury to believe. Okay? The case is what it is. What has happened, but he has a burden to prove certain things. And that's what he was doing today. Putting in his big evidence, trying to finish strong and trying to finish with the things that he absolutely needs this jury to believe to get a conviction. I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us. What a big day today. You know, we could talk about a lot of things today. We could talk about the medical examiner. We could talk about the mapping and the tracking and where exactly John and Karen were and what the health data shows. We can talk about all that, but we don't have time for all of that. We're going to zero in and zoom in on the voicemail messages. This is an attempt by the prosecutor to put an exclamation point at the end of his case. Okay? You try to start strong, you absolutely need to finish strong as a prosecutor, especially in a long case. Right? Go back in time. Like, do you even remember when Chris Albert testified? Do you even remember the emergency responders when they testified? I mean, it's weeks and weeks and weeks ago. So that's why you need to finish strong. That's what he's attempting to do here. He'll be wrapped up tomorrow. And he put the voicemails in. Now, warning, if you haven't heard them, the language is a little salty. It's a little salty, but I'm going to play it because I think I debated whether or not to put the beeps in. I have to put the beeps in on television tonight. I have to. Okay? Those are just the rules. We're a broadcast network. Can't put that stuff on the public airways. You can put it on the internet, obviously. So you're going to hear a little salty language, but I think it gives you I think what it brings you is a much truer sense of what she's saying, how she's saying it, and then the debate, of course, is what does it mean? Now, through these voicemail messages, it's clear to me what the prosecutor's trying to establish, that things were not good. Things were really bad. Something really bad happened in that car ride from the waterfall to the Alberts home. That's what they're trying to establish. That they did not leave like, a kiss goodnight and have fun in the party and I'll see you later. That's clearly not what happened here. Clearly there was a problem. Clearly there was an argument. And it seemed pretty serious. Okay? But again, what does that mean? That's the ultimate question, right? What does it prove? What does it show? What impact will it have on a jury? Now, are you ready? I'm going to play them for you. Again, salty language. Salty language, it's a series of voicemails. Now, the way it came in evidence today was kind of clunky, as usual, right? So I've chopped it down so you know the time of the call, and then you hear the call, and you'll hear the trooper giving you the time of all the subsequent calls. The first call is at 12:37 a.m. 12:37 a.m. Okay. So, are you ready? If you got kids in the room, so let's get the kids out. Let's get the kids out of the room. If you're listening in your car and you're picking everybody up at carpool, I think you have to turn it down right now, or Bluetooth it. But you shouldn't drive with Bluetooth anyway, so that's not a good idea either. But let's get to it, okay? So this is KarenRead. Now, remember what the allegation is here: that she has just taken the life of John O'Keefe, okay? On purpose, just minutes before this first call, which is at 12:37. I've warned you. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Let's listen to the series of voice. There were other calls where some of them nothing is said. One you kind of hear walking around, but I just did the ones where you can hear Karen Read say something. There's a series of them. Then the last one is goes all the way to like after 5 o'clock in the morning. The last. Pay attention to the times and take a listen. I'll play it more than once, but here we go. Kids, earmuffs. All right.
12:59.
John, I'm here with your fucking kids. Nobody knows what the fuck you are, you fucking pervert.
1:11 a.m.
Yeah, it's 1 in the morning. I'm with your fucking niece and nephew. You fucking pervert. You're a fucking pervert.
1:18 a.m.
John, I'm going home. I cannot babysit your niece. I need to go home. You are fucking using me right now. You're fucking another girl. He's sleeping next to me. You're a fucking loser. Fuck yourself.
5:23 a.m.
There you have it. It was salty. It was raw. It's evidence. This is how, in part, the prosecutor is wrapping up his case. And with the voicemails, what's interesting, he didn't really even mention them in his opening statement. I don't recall hearing anything about it in the opening statement, but we knew it existed as we saw it in the statement of the case. So what does this, all right, what does this tell you about her? What does it tell you about her state of mind? And what does it tell you about the allegations? Does this sound like someone who just purposely did what she's accused of? Does this sound like someone who purposely did what they're accused of? Does it sound like someone who knows what they did? Does it sound like someone who knows what she did? What does it sound like to you? This is very confusing. Most cases where someone's accused of what she's accused of and they try to cover their tracks, they'll leave a message like, hey, hope you're having a good time at the party. Just checking in with you. I'm going to go to sleep now, but if you need a ride home, let me know. Love you. Like, that's what you would expect if someone is trying to cover up something that they know they did. That's why this is the ultimate. Is it a catch-22 or a double-edged sword? It's one or the other because it plays both ways. On the one hand, it shows that there was a fight. There was some bad blood in that car. Because as soon as she got home, she's yelling this stuff. Okay? There's also the text messages, but this you get to hear her. So you really understand her state of mind much clearer than you would from a text message. So prosecutors using this to show this jury that it wasn't a good night. It wasn't a good ride from the waterfall to the Albert's home. Something happened in that short time period that just set her off. Now, is it the fact that he just wanted to go to the party? Could that be what it's about? Could it be about the Dunkin' Donuts in the morning? Could it be about the trip to Aruba? Like, what is it? Could it be about him not speaking with her? Or is it just the whole big picture about what's going on in their relationship? Does any of those scenarios equal motive? It's a double-edged sword. It's a catch-22. I don't know. I think a double-edged sword is probably the best. It cuts both ways. It absolutely cuts both ways. And what's this perv stuff about? That's what the jury is probably wondering. Like, what is that about? That's something that's kind of out of left field. We know nothing about that. We know nothing about that. So what does this mean? What does this piece of now? There's other evidence that came in today. 8:00 tonight. We're going to handle it. We're going to deal with it all. But right now, let's focus on these calls. Now, I believe as a prosecutor, you should put them in. You should put in the evidence. The evidence is what it is, right? You don't leave out something important like this just because you're not sure if the jury's what they're gonna think of it. It's the truth. This is what she was saying to him on his voicemail. And it begins at 12:37. She gets home at like 12. When is the first one? 12:37. She gets home at 12:36 now, according to prosecutors. I thought it was 12:41 on the video. All these times are again, this timeline is seemingly changing. But usually someone who's accused of doing what she did, would make themselves look a lot better, would make the relationship look a lot better. Hey, John, I'm sorry. I should have gone in with you. Give me a call. Let me know if you want me to go to the party. Right? That's if you're staged. This is not staging. To me, what I hear is real, like real, raw emotion. Now, is it fueled by alcohol? Well, we know she's been drinking. Does that amplify it? Does that bring out more of her real thoughts and emotions about this relationship? Does it show that she's kind of in a rage? Is that what the prosecutor's going to argue now, that she was in a rage that night? Excuse me. What's going on here? What's going on here? And does this fit with what we're hearing from the prosecution? Does this fit with what we're hearing from the defense? On the way out of the courthouse, Alan Jackson, after the text messages came out, said, yeah, we're just hearing that they're like any other couple. Okay, I don't know what your experience is. And maybe you've had an experience like this. Fortunately, I have not. But does this sound like something that is part of a normal relationship? They're just going through a little thing and they're trying to work things out? Or is this something deeper? Because the allegations here are serious and deep. So, if this is kind of normal, and maybe you think it is, I don't know. From my point of reference, this is not normal. Okay, this is not normal, but I guess it could be. I'm open to hearing your thoughts about that. And some people are luckier than others in finding someone that they don't have so much conflict with. But there's clearly conflict here. But to me, it's like, what level of conflict? Is this enough to get you to the ultimate reaction, which is what she's accused of doing here? There's another part of this. The jury's judging this woman. So now, she may never testify, but they've heard her. They've heard her voice in the moments closest to the time of the alleged act, right? It's rare. It is rare that you get to hear the voice of the accused moments after the alleged act. When do you get that? We don't get that, because usually when someone's doing that, they're very secretive and they're not going to leave voicemails. They're not going to call 50. Well, maybe they'll call 50 times. I'm worried about you. I'm worried about you. But what exactly does this mean? You take these voicemails and add on top of it the 50 other calls that are taking place. Now, this also impacts the timeline. I see people are starting to talk about the timeline. The timeline to me has had me confused and a mess from the beginning. People try to say, oh, no, here's the time. Here's the time. No, because there are times all over the place right now. And it's not fitting like this. And I understand it doesn't always fit like this. But in this case, every minute means something. So, what are you hearing here? What does this prove? What does it prove about the relationship? What does it prove about what's going on that night? What does it prove about her state of mind? Right? There's a lot. There's a lot to take from these voicemail messages. It's not a piece of evidence that you just say, "Oh yeah, it just means this." It means that. Well, wait. Let's think about this a little bit. There are layers to this, and each of the 12 jurors can look at different layers to glean something from this and what it means to them. It can mean the way they're judging her. Do they like her? Do they not like her? Right? Her state of mind, her state of sobriety, the state of their relationship. Was she in such a state of mind that it makes this more possible, or does it make something, or does it prove that there's no way she did this on purpose, because she wouldn't be doing this if she had just done what prosecutors have alleged? So that's and what I'm hearing, I hear rage, I hear real, I hear raw. I now believe there was a serious argument the last moment they were together. Would that lead to someone speeding off? Someone accidentally attempting to speed off and the car's in reverse? Is that possible? Does this lead us to accident land? Accident fueled by anger and rage, and I'm getting out of here. Goodbye, good night. Step on the gas, going backwards. Oh my goodness. Maybe you realize it, maybe you don't. You just throw it, you just want to get out of there. Okay, I'm going to get to some of your notes in just a second. But this becomes a crucial piece of evidence. Prosecutors put it in, but the defense can clearly make their own arguments from it. They absolutely can. But I think they'll have a tougher time saying, they're like any other couple, unless they know something about the 12 in the box. Because if I'm in the box and you tell me this is like any other couple going through a rough patch, I'd be like, oh, wait a minute. This is a little different. Like pervert? What is that? I hate you? But like, it's not just, oh, I hate you. No, it's, I hate you. Click. Moments after she leaves, which means whatever was happening there was serious and was real. It was not just a little disagreement about Dunkin' Donuts. No way. I'm not believing that right now. I'm not believing that. But do I believe that someone accused of the intentional act that she's accused of would engage in that behavior and then leave these messages? Never seen that on court TV. Never. It's always the opposite of that. I've been saying this all along. Both sides are like having a hard time. Both sides are having a hard time in proving some of the things that they're alleging here. You've got them, on completely opposite ends here, and there's all these opportunities for what may have happened in the middle. And I just wonder what the jury's thinking of that. All right, let's get to some of your comments, because I've been going for like 20 minutes here, and I've got the show tonight, 8:00, obviously diving into this big day today. It'll be another big day tomorrow. Then the defense is going to start. And I heard the judge say they're going to be wrapping up the case next week, meaning the evidence, then the closing arguments, then the jury gets it, and you never know how long a jury will take. Once we get to that point, I'll explain to you all my theories on jury deliberations. And Massachusetts, they generally aren't super fast. They're very thoughtful. They take their time. But you've got something else lingering here. Like the July 4th vacation week is like lingering, which sometimes can speed up deliberations a little bit. Mick Spunky. Hey, everyone's in a good mood now. Hey, Vinny, Gen X, Frankie Figs and Melly. Hello, Mick Spunky. Yeah, I like the way he wears the shades. I'll have to do that one of these streams. We've got Yobi Trice. Prosecutor claimed Karen and John 12:45 a.m. in opening statement, but now testimony pertains. Karen got back to John's house at 12:36. Yobi Trice, you are correct. This is a problem, right? The timeline is a mess. The timeline's a mess. And I know on cross-examination, there may be some more issues that the defense is bringing up about the alleged timeline and time stamps of everything as well, which makes it even more complicated. But in this case, with all these people coming in and out of the house, people dropping off, picking up, sending text messages that are time stamped, testifying about times, every minute counts. Every minute counts. So now you got her home at 12:36. This is happening, what, 12:32? 12:32? Is that when this is happening? So I feel like I got to go back to the testimony to see who was there at 12:32. So who didn't see John O'Keefe? Because only one person saw, what was that? The black blob, or a big black blob on the yard, but nobody else did. Julie Nagel. But great point. These calls now also impact the timeline. So this gets back to what I was saying yesterday. Mr. Prosecutor, Mr. Lally, you've got to bring it in your closing argument. You got to tie these things together because they are loosely tied right now, especially timeline. I don't think Lally can prove intent, overcharge, says Yobi Trice. A lot of people have been saying that. And it seems during the pretrial litigation that the intent was a result of testing the car, the backup camera worked, and the voicemail messages. The combination of those two things led this prosecution team to where we are. That's why we're not talking about manslaughter. We're not talking about an accident. We're not talking about driving under the influence. Okay. Nashley, 66. Oh my goodness, Vinny. She was waiting for John to come back out and say they were invited, got mad and left. Okay. Let's take a look at that. She'd have to testify about that, number one. The timing of that. So now the timing of the cell phone data, the longitude, latitude, everything else bouncing off of the cell towers. How long does she wait? When did he go inside? What time did he go inside? Did he go inside like as soon as they got there? And then she's just hanging? Is that what's going on? Well, that is going to be contradicted by some of the other evidence today. I know the defense is going to rely upon the Apple Health to make that argument because I think it lines up potentially with their timing, because now timestamps are all off now, potentially by 3 minutes. So there's problems there. But that's going to be the final story. She pulls up, drops him off, waiting out in front to see if they were invited. then got mad, hates him, and he's a pervert. What's the pervert about? Where does that come from? Where does pervert, is he perverted because he's going to the after party? Or is the argument about something else? Because, and Ashley saying the theory is that she's mad about not knowing if she's invited to go in. I get that. She doesn't say that in the voicemail messages. If she said that in the voicemail messages, she wouldn't have to testify to get that in front of the jury. But now she'd have to testify to get that in front of the jury. But that may match up with their interpretation of some of the evidence, primarily the Apple Health, with the alleged walking up and down the stairs. Creed M, Vinny. Think AB, if she was this mad, how mad was John when he saw the guy texting her, sending him, "You coming"? Would he tolerate that disrespect? I guess that's to think about. If she was this mad, how mad was John when he saw the guy texting her, sending him, "You coming"? Would he tolerate that disrespect? I get it. Now, the only one who can testify about him going inside the house would be Karen. One witness saw someone tall and dark, but it wasn't clear who it was. Interesting. He may very well have been very mad if he knew. If he knew. If you had some communication between John and Karen about Brian Higgins, if you had that. I haven't seen it. But see, that there's the inference versus evidence. Inferences can be drawn, reasonable inferences can be drawn from other evidence, but it's much stronger if you have actual evidence of what you're alleging rather than alleging something based upon an inference from other evidence. You see the difference in the strength of that, right? Like we know that they're flirting. We know they're texting. We know that they kissed. Do we know that John knew? Do we know that John was mad about it? Do we know that John had confronted Karen about it? Do we know that John had confronted Brian Higgins about it? Do we know that? I want evidence of that in some form of a communication from someone. If you have that, much stronger evidence about this. But right now, this is based upon an inference from other evidence, which you can make. It's just not nearly as strong. Not nearly as strong. More timeline problems. Sarah, O plus F. Vinny Politan, she's home by 12:36. So why is Jen texting John while seeing them outside at 12:45? Problem. It's a problem. Timeline's a mess. It is a mess. Lisa Koch, watch it on Facebook. We're simulcasting Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X. If you're on Facebook, please share and make sure you're following. On YouTube, please hit the like, smash the like for us. That would be amazing. And don't forget to subscribe. Twitch, twitch us, and an X, you re-X or retweet us. Lisa Koch, this case is far from normal. It's not every day that a man takes in 2 kids because the kid's parents died. Yeah. I mean, that's a big, and that's a big part of, and we've seen it in text messages and you hear it. It's a huge part of John O'Keefe's life, obviously, as a single parent of these 2 children, and Karen in his life. So now, Karen is part of all this. And it's, you're raising 2 kids. I know anyone that has children, it's more than a full-time job. It's more than a full-time job. If you're trying to do it by yourself and now you're dating someone, it obviously, in any relationship, chews up in a good way, in a very good way, a lot of your time, your effort, your energy, your love, your attention. That's what parents do. That's what we're supposed to do. So it clearly impacts, it's much different if just a couple is together versus a couple with children. Everyone knows that. And now in this relationship, it seems from the evidence that it's become a little bit of an issue, a stressor in the relationship. And how that plays out is obviously part of the friction here, because we've seen it. Yobi again, didn't Jen claim to see the car at 12:45? Yeah, well, that's right. This whole timeline is like upside down, inside out. And you know me, I'm a timeline guy. On my show, we're always putting together timelines. Let's put together a timeline of this. I mean, that's how you can understand a case. The Idaho student case, the timeline, so important. And Yobi with the fancy bottle of water I have here. Yeah, it's fancy. It matches the set. All right. Sean G. Good liars will do the opposite to what the norm is. Interesting. Saying that she is doing this, and I think what you're alleging here, Sean, is that she is doing this to make the argument, well, if I did it, I wouldn't leave messages like that. Yeah, you can make that argument. Here's Lauren Katie. If she was so wasted, how in the world did she not hit Higgins' Jeep going 24 miles an hour backwards? A bunch of things that don't make sense. Susan, that's what I wanted to know. The pervert comment. What does that mean? Pervert. What does that mean? I think it'd be cheaper if I just subscribed. Oh, wow. Pervert sounds like a younger woman was involved. It says sharp tack. Hex. The donuts are a lie. Had nothing to do with donuts. Brooklyn Janet, Vinny. It could be their normal. Some couples on erotic maybe are erratic and immature. I have a reasonable doubt. How many reasons? Defense is terrific. So you wrote, it says some couples on erotic, but I believe, Brooklyn, you meant some couples are erratic and immature. Okay, so this could be their normal. So Brooklyn Janet sees this and hears this as something that is potentially normal. Mm-hmm. Sheila K. That's a great great picture, by the way, Sheila. It's not a little argument about Dunkin' Donuts. In Karen's mind, he drunkenly ditched her again after convincing her to spend the weekend in Canton. That would make any woman irate. Irate. What's the pervert part of that? What's the pervert part? Like, I get it. I get it. Like, if he's going to the after party, she doesn't want to go. He's like, I don't want to go. Let's go to the after party. I'm still unclear about the pervert. Deb Basile, everyone was drunk. People behave badly when drunk. I'm not sure about who K'd J.O. in this case, and that's a shame. Well, if you're not sure, that's reasonable doubt. KarenRead goes home, Deb. If you're on the jury, KarenRead goes home. And that's how the system works. Proof beyond any and all reasonable doubt is the only way it works. June, he stumbled and fell. She hit him. I refused to let AJ to confuse me without giving me any answer. Karen has MS plus alcohol. It affected her thinking process and mental issues. It's not normal. Love you, Vinny. Thank you, June. Cinnamon, hot. Happy you're on YouTube with us, Vinny. Thank you, Cinnamon. Glad that you're here with us as well. Nina, hi, Vinny, from Athens, Georgia. Right around the corner. Love your show. Thank you, Nina, with the exclamation point. Going artsy with the black and white. Awesome. Thank you, Nina. So I'm just scrolling and trying to get a flavor for some of the conversations happening online in the chat right now. So today, like when you're a prosecutor, you know the defense is going to put on a case. You know the case is not going to be long, right? But you know you've got to finish with something that gets the jury's attention. Here's the other part of this, though. Some of this evidence that was put on today, would it have been more effective early in the trial or here at the end? Right? Early, because you know, as a prosecutor, you have the choice of how you want to present your case. Sometimes you just kind of do it chronologically. It was kind of done in a different fashion here, sort of a little bit of zigzagging around. With what I believe the Commonwealth believes is finishing with their strongest evidence. Putting the lead investigator, squish him in the middle. You know that's your weak point. You put him in the middle of the sandwich. You try to start with people that are disinterested or first responders. Get some strong evidence in, like the alleged confession at the top. So really, the way prosecutors are doing this, confession at the top, I hate you, you perv at the end. And then using their digital evidence to establish where John O'Keefe was and establish from their perspective that he never went in the house. So they're doing that the right way, right? There are certain facts in this case. Like if you believe the 227 Google happened at 227, KarenRead not guilty. But if you believe John O'Keefe never made it into the house, well, KarenRead's guilty of something. She's guilty of something. If he doesn't get in the house, because there's no other reasonable explanation other than her SUV, if he doesn't get in the house. So the defense has to get him in the house, and the prosecution has to get this jury to believe that 227 Google was not a 227. Those are two pieces of evidence that to me speak volumes. So expect a lot of attention to be paid by both sides on that evidence. Because if you get a juror believing in either one of those pieces of evidence for your side, you won't lose the case. If you get all 12, you win the case. And we've got Rouse J1199. How did the accident occur? Did she reverse parallel to the sidewalk and he was behind the car? Did she reverse onto the lawn? I don't know how far they would have her onto the lawn. The shoe is up against the curb. So how far does that take the car? You need a better expert to explain this to us, right? That's what we need. We didn't get it, but that's what we needed from the prosecution. But yeah, they're saying reverse 24 miles an hour, 60 feet, and the impact sent him flying, or from the point of impact to where he landed, like 30 feet, however he got there. Was he pushed by the car part of the way? Was he dragged by the car? It wasn't clear. It wasn't clear. And I could absolutely see a juror saying, listen, you need to prove that to me. Prove that to me. Give me something. Don't give me this Trooper Paul. Give me something credible. Explain it and explain the science behind it. Give me something I can trust and believe, rather than someone just saying, I don't know how the evidence got there. I didn't put it there. Right? You needed more. You didn't get it. So those questions, I think those questions about the impact and why the scene looks the way it looks, I don't think the prosecution necessarily wins that. And you would think they would win that because there's taillight pieces found all over the place. And usually that's enough, but not in a case where the allegations are that the stuff is being placed there by law enforcement. Dog's discussions. YouTube says she was angry because he didn't return. Yeah, that's what everyone's saying. What does that mean relative to pervert? What does that mean relative to pervert? I mean, she used that more than once. I mean, I'll play it one more time. Let me play it for you one more time in case you're just getting here, by the way. So the first one's at 12:37. This is a series of messages. Obviously, I condensed everything because it was very clunky the way this evidence went in court. But I have the times, and then you hear the message. There were other calls that were recorded without messages. I only am playing for you the ones with messages that were obviously left by KarenRead. Let's listen.
12:59.
John, I'm here with your fucking kids. Nobody knows what the fuck you are, you fucking pervert.
1:11 a.m.
Yeah, it's 1 in the morning. I'm with your fucking niece and nephew. You fucking pervert. You're a fucking pervert.
1:18 a.m.
John, I'm going home. I cannot babysit your niece. I need to go home. You are fucking using me right now. You're fucking another girl. He's sleeping next to me. You're a fucking loser. Fuck yourself.
5:23 a.m.
Clearly believes he's with another woman. I guess that's where the pervert comes from. Every time I listen, I hear something different. So it's jealousy. That's what I'm hearing here. This is jealousy. She believes he's with someone else at this moment. At the moment. So let's get back to the double-edged sword. If she believes he's with someone right now, then could she be guilty of what she's accused of? Like if she did it on purpose, if you do it on purpose, you know you did it. But if you know you did it, would you leave a message in a rage like that, number one, and number two, making very specific allegations? The defense can clearly turn this around and say, without her testifying, she thought John was cheating. She thought John was in the party with someone else and was avoiding her calls and was not picking up the phone to avoid her because he was busy with someone else. They could say that very easily. Zamviv 11 or Zamvivel 1. It's one or the other with a super sticker. Thank you, Zamviv. Zamviv. Okay. Is Vinny drinking? Yes. Water. Vinny doesn't drink. So that's one challenge I have here in analyzing some of this, is trying to understand the actions, the mentality, the memory. Do people realize what they're doing in different states of inebriation? All I know is what I've heard. I haven't experienced it. So that's one difficulty I have in analyzing this, and I think it's an important part of the analysis. Does she know? Does she realize? Is she cognizant? Does she think? Is she now getting memories that she didn't have before? I don't know. I don't know. But I'm drinking water. I do know that. Okay. Oh, I got something. I got an answer on pervert. Where is this? Oh, we've got an admission here. Maureen Coakley. Some voicemails I've left could quite possibly be cause for committal. I'm 100% Irish, and when I lose it, the whole world knows. Well, Maureen, thank you for the honesty. If you have some of those voicemails, please send them to us, and we'll play them on the next show. Let's see. Oh, here we go. This is from Brenda Van Dyke. Pervert comes from the younger Sullivan sister she accused of having a scene with John down in Aruba, and she testified. That's what Marietta, was that her name? Was her name Marietta? And she testified, and she denied doing anything with John, but clearly was accused by Karen. So maybe that's where the pervert thing comes from, because they're in their 40s and she was much younger, or at least seemed much younger. Yep, that was me. I think the perverts is because of the younger girl that she thought he made out with in Aruba. If she was like a little sister to him, then a bit perv. Gotcha. And then you've got young girls in the Albert house that night, right? Because Brian Jr. was having the party. Did they know that Brian Jr. was having a party? I don't know. I don't know. So is the final argument going to be they get there around 12:24? He gets out immediately, goes right into the house. She pulls the car up a little bit, waiting for him. And then finally at, 12:32 or so, takes off, gets home by 12:36. Okay. Dana, wrong. Vinny, you are wrong. Okay. And unfortunately, Dana, I don't know what you were responding to, or just in general. Maybe just in general. And big thank you to Melly, Frankie Figs, Gen X, keeping law and order in the discussion room today. Let's see. Okay. Cameron Simpson, Vinny, according to David Unetti, says the case will not take all week next week. Any thoughts on this and what we could expect with closing arguments? Defense case, and this happens a lot. You'll hear at the beginning of a case, yeah, the defense will be about a week, 6 days. It ends up being a day and a half, 2 days. I think here it's going to be 3 days, maybe even less. It's their experts. They're going to bring in a few experts. That's their case. I don't know if they have any fact witnesses that they need to call. I don't know if there's any witnesses they need to recall. I don't think they want to recall any of the witnesses because they already had the opportunity to cross-examine them, and all their cross-examination was good. I mean, they're really good at cross-examination. So I think it'll be experts for the defense, then closing arguments in what they need to do. You're going to see the defense try to keep the focus on Trooper Proctor, right? You can argue everything, but at the end of the day, you want certain things to stick with the jury, and you want to give them and hand them arguments. Like if you have a juror that's on your side, you want to provide ammunition for them to use in the jury room if they are in disagreement with other jurors. So you've got to give them things that they can use. And I think for the defense, a lot of that will be related to Proctor, right? Try to make this trial about, do you or do you not trust Trooper Proctor? Period. They want to keep it that simple, that tight. The prosecution wants you to focus on, and they have to not be defensive. They need to be on the offense, not on the defense in their closing argument, not trying to fend off the conspiracy and everything else. You know, what you have to do is focus in on the elements of the trial and give a roadmap to the jury. Here's what I have to prove. Here's how I proved it. Here's what I need to prove. Here's how I proved it. A prosecutor's closing argument can have some level of emotion. You can finish that way. You can start that way. But in there, what you really need to provide is the map to conviction, period. Because once everyone's done, sometimes the judge gives the instruction first, but the jury's going to follow the law, and they're going to have a jury form that they fill out. That's logistically what they do. Check, guilty, not guilty, guilty, not guilty. So you've got to give them the reasons why they should be checking guilty. And you give them what the elements of the case are, the elements of the case that you need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And then you show them exactly how you proved each of those elements. You stay on the offense. You prove your case. And I would come up with a way to simply dismiss the conspiracy. I wouldn't dwell on it. I wouldn't go piece by piece on it. I would come up with a way to kind of, in 10 minutes or so, wrap up the conspiracy and toss it out the window, because you can't have them focusing on that. They need to focus on you, on your charges, the elements you have to prove, and the evidence you put in to prove it. That's where they have to go. And I think the defense, it's all about Proctor, period. All right. I got to start rushing through this because I'm almost out of time here. Brooklyn Janet's back. Karen is jealous and immature, as also seen in Aruba. Yes, and the jury saw that. Didn't even have to get into the defense case for that. Came out during the prosecution's case. Jinx, you owe me a Coke. Karen's phone should be going up and down the stairs too, as they say they were driving, right? If John was teasing her about liking one of the McCabe daughters, hence pervert. Okay, got the pervert. Great point about Karen's phone going up and down. Did they examine that? What does her Apple Health say? Great point. This one is interesting. Nunya Shabusiness. That case, I don't know if you know about the Shabusiness case out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. But Nunya says, like Tiger Woods, kind of pervert. Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Were there women Karen was worried about in the house? I don't think so. Jennifer McCabe? Was she worried about Jennifer McCabe? I mean, it was all couples there. There were no women by themselves in the house. So I'm not sure. The only women who were by themselves, sort of, may have been like Julie Nagel and some of the younger adults. Yep, that was me. Pervert. I said it on a previous super chat. LOL. Maybe Karen thought J.O. was hooking up with the girls in the house. Yeah, the younger girls. Here's Jan, Augustine Eller on Facebook. The voicemails don't change my mind. I don't think she would have kept calling if she had any idea she hit him. And that's a very common sense argument, right? Very common sense. Yep, that was me. Vinny, look at the previous super chat. Aruba girl. Gotcha. Aruba girl. That's one of the Sully sisters. Woman would call a man a PV if she believes that he left her children. He left her children, doesn't want to be with her, cheating and lewd. Gotcha. Thank you, JJ. No strays entertainment. If I was a juror, I would want to hear Karen testify. The text with her and Higgins and voicemails to John would leave me with a bad impression of her. And that's part of it, right? We talked about this. You know, that's part of the takeaway of the voicemail are them judging who she is and what she's like, what kind of person, character. Is this someone who could be capable of that? Is someone who leaves that message more capable of doing what she's accused of? That could be part of the analysis. LC3. Thank you, LC3. All right. Allie said John was in the house when she picked up Colin. Is that the one? Is she the one who said she saw someone tall, dark hair? LC3. Yep. Beach vacation hookup in Aruba. That's the PERVERT. A lot of people coming back to that. Makes sense. Carrie Dexter. Hey, Vinny and Peeps. Timeline's got me thinking the PD is involved and was scared of what she could learn if J.O. was getting busted for some shady stuff. Wow. That goes deep. That goes deep. That goes next level now. Now we've got some shady stuff. And again, that's something obviously you could think a juror could think, but it's not something necessarily I think either side could argue about shady stuff because they don't have the evidence of it in the trial. But jurors are allowed to do whatever they want to do. KK, unhinged. Mark Jasper, JM said JOK ex-girlfriend lived on Fairview, right? So maybe KR thought he went to her house. Way too much reasonable doubt to convict regardless of framing. That's interesting for Mark, right? So I think we're at that point in this case where it's very possible a jury, even without the defense proving a frame, could come to a not guilty verdict because of all the other problems. Reasonable doubt comes in many different forms. And the defense never has to prove anything, never. And the judge will remind the jury, the lawyers will remind the jury. But at the end of the day, reasonable doubt is that lack of evidence or other things that are unexplained and could be explained in a much different way. There's a reasonable alternative explanation. Doesn't have to be as good of an explanation, but it's a reasonable alternative explanation for what happened. And that may be where we are in this case, with at least some of the jurors, if not all the jurors. And we are that way with at least half of the viewers, probably more so. Creed, PERVERT, will have the jury make up their own story. You know what, Creed? You're probably right. They fill in the blanks. A lot of times the jury will fill in the blanks themselves. Oh, well, they really didn't answer that question, but this is what I think it means. And they're allowed to draw reasonable inferences. Allie Taylor, I came to this case as an unbiased as a juror and knowing nothing about it. Allie, this is interesting. I'll say that I am still nowhere near beyond a reasonable doubt. Wow. You see, and this is what I was talking about. In trying to gauge where the jury might be, it's folks like Allie. Their reaction to this is probably the most valuable in trying to figure out where a jury may land. And I've seen way too many people saying things similar to what Allie is saying. So if the public reaction is in sync with the jury, the way the Johnny Depp case, the public reaction was in sync, then you're not going to get 12 saying guilty. I have questions. What digital evidence? The digital evidence show he went in. They're saying the accuracy was low, and it's just like the hundreds of other things. Wrong. So the way it was explained and what I heard was that your phone, second to second, will change. The strength of the signal was changing. And as the strength of the signal changed, the radius of where the phone can be gets larger. The weaker the signal, the larger the range, the stronger the signal, the tighter. And then there's a second analysis, which is the longitude, latitude lines that have been given. The trooper said that the longitude, latitude never changed. And this sphere, expanded beyond going into the house at times, but then a second later would contract, meaning he'd have to, go 30 miles an hour to get into the house in that window of time. That's according to the expert. If the jury believes the expert's interpretation. Obviously, we're going to have a defense one saying something different, but I think that's the digital evidence. And that was the explanation. The weaker the signal, the wider the range. Like there's more, I wanted to use an analysis. Margin of error. So, like in a poll, they'll have a margin of error, plus or minus 3 points. Here, like the margin of error gets larger as the signal gets weaker, but the stronger it gets, the more accurate it is. And it's a smaller range. And the testimony today was from where John O'Keefe was found to the front door was 72 feet going in a straight line. Okay, I've seen this from Leah Da Vinci. I don't know. All caps, Swingers. Great movie. Was that happening here? Nobody testified to it. Were there upside down pineapples seen anywhere in any of the crime scene photos? We'll see. But that could be an explanation. Oh, yeah, it's going to be wild. It's going to be crazy. Yep, that was me, Aruba girl, like a sister and way younger. I get it. Cookie all day. Vinny doesn't drink. Correct, Cookie. Day in the life of my cat. Some men play their girlfriend's irate messages to their friends in order to get a laugh. Calling him a PERVERT would prevent that. Interesting. That's fascinating. Dog's discussion. He probably my talks about younger woman equals PERVERT. All right, we're close to the end because I got to get ready for tonight's show at 8:00. Margaret, Kane, Vinny, been watching you since the Danielle Van Dam case. That was a case about swingers. CW has not proved their case by a mile. Voicemails prove insecure relationship, but that's it. Well stated, Margaret. That goes back. That was a case in San Diego years ago, and that's close to when I first started. I have questions. Vinny is diabetic. Alcohol is a lot of sugar, bad for diabetics. Yeah. But that's absolutely true. And actually a good friend of mine who had diabetes but would drink. He was living by himself and passed away, unfortunately. I think the way drinking can also impact your control of your diabetes. It's not just the sugar, but it's like you being able to do the right things, like get yourself sugar when you need sugar, give yourself insulin when you need insulin. If you're like under the influence, you're not going to be able to manage and control your diabetes either. All right, getting the last couple in here, then I got to go. Melly, perhaps necessary, but I find it rather uncomfortable / wrong that the relationship is put on blast as the other party, OJO, is not here to speak to it. Officer John O'Keefe. Yes, it's tough, but it's part of the case, and it has to be part of the case. These cases are never easy. This is a case. The one thing about this trial is there hasn't been anyone really attacking Officer John O'Keefe inside the courtroom, because many times a defendant and the defense will go after the victim in a case, dirty up the victim. It's not happening here. And I don't think it will happen. I think both sides know you stay away from that. But the nature of the relationship in a case where one's accused of committing the act against another, then it becomes extremely relevant to the case. And that's why it's in there. It's in there so the jury, from the prosecution's point of view, so the jury can understand why this would happen. Why on earth would she ever do this? And that's their attempt to do that. And yeah, it's rough. It's rough. But in any case where the victim is no longer around, you never get their side of it. Same thing in a self-defense. Okay. And oh yeah, I really got to go. So sorry. Rachel Stark, I don't understand this blind loyalty to Karen. The trial isn't over. Why do you think there's so much pro-Karen supporters? And I've met them and I've spoken with them. They believe that there's something terrible happening in Canton, that law enforcement is dirty, they're not honest, and they're upset about it. And that's why they've dug in. That's why they've dug in, because they believe that there is corruption and the public doesn't want to stand for the corruption. That's why they're dug in. So they're pro KarenRead, but they're also anti-police corruption is their mindset in all of this. JKG, I read today maybe swinger party. That keeps coming up. Here. That's interesting. Double nickels. I think John O'Keefe relied on her a lot with taking care of the kids, and she was in over her head with that responsibility. I believe they were both were toxic. I think John kept her around to help with the kids. And if he did, he shouldn't have. You can't do that. But it does. Things get complicated when you have a serious relationship and there's children involved. It gets much more serious. It's a bigger commitment to enter into a relationship with someone that has children. Michelle L. The voicemail seemed like a desperate attempt to get the jury to hate her to make up for the fact that the case was not proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Great take by Michelle, Mom for Life. What is your intake on Judge Bev? Do you find her to be biased towards the defense? No, not necessarily. I think she might lean a little bit more towards the prosecution, but she made a crucial ruling today in the favor of the defense, keeping out evidence that Karen was looking for a lawyer. But if she let it in, the case would have been overturned if she ever got convicted. So it was the correct legal call by the judge. But yeah, I think there's a little bit in the tone you kind of get, but it wouldn't be the first judge like that. And I've talked about this before. Aaron Wilcox, I'm not sure the jury can see past the C word. It's tough. TN, this is very confusing. I like to believe she's innocent, but I don't know. In any case, I don't see that the prosecution has proved it. TN, no, then you would be voting not guilty under our system of justice. Marissa, thank you so much. Marissa Charles. Amy's Positive Pathways. I think the only reason the DA decided to take it to trial was to see the FBI report. These cops are corrupt. It's been going on for a while. I live in Massachusetts. Yeah, corruption is really, I think, at the heart of the Karen Read movement here. So many people are falling for the prosecutor's weak games by trying to assassinate KR's character instead of focusing on real evidence, says Nora. All right, Nora, thank you. And am I done? Oh, did I miss one? If I miss your super, it's just because I'm out of time. It's great. We can define PR subtypes by the public figures that best represent them. Oh, that kind of PERVERT. But that word was looming large today. Okay, I'm out of time. I've got to go. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. Don't forget, 8:00 tonight, we're going to get into everything that happened tonight. And we've got Matt Johnson live at the courthouse with all that. And we'll bring in our insiders and we'll bring in our expert to take a look at some of this data and whether or not it passes the smell test. Because today, prosecutors need today to be their biggest day so far. They need today to be the biggest day so far. They need today the jury at the end of the day saying, wow, okay, that's what they need. Did it happen? I'm not sure, but I know that's what they need. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tonight at 8:00. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Have a great day. Please don't forget to hug the kids.